You're watching What's Your Story Vancouver, and I'm James Jenkins, and that's...
I'm Roy Tighe with Thailand Productions.
Yeah.
There we go. We're into it. I just got off the mountain.
Yeah. Fresh off the slopes.
The toque, the hoodie, you know, the Whistler lifestyle. Yeah, I just got off the slopes. It was a beautiful day up there. And what I was saying was about the cigarettes on the mountain is they have signs up there that says, no smoking on the mountain and please no swearing. I was like, only in Canada do you get that.
Exactly.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, Roy is the director of a new documentary about comedian Richard Glen Lett. And we're at, well, obviously we were at the Whistler Film Festival right now. And I got to say, I watched it yesterday and it was pretty heavy, man. It was, you had a really good, the quote you from yesterday in the Q&A, you said, this is not entertainment.
Yeah.
This is
reality.
This is reality. This is to mirror someone's life. Just to show what people go through, I guess, with addiction.
Yeah, absolutely. So the doc is Never Be Done, the Richard Glen Lett story, and it's titled that because it suited Richard. You know, he's 60 years old now, and he's never done. You know, and the reason why it's titled Never Be Done is because of, if you notice in the documentary, he talks about how he was originally trying to do a one-man show, 10, 12 years prior, and it was called Never Be Done, and that's how I met him. So I was a local guy living in Vancouver at the time, doing videography gigs, you know, creating my own content. I had a web series called The Backshop Show at the time, so you know, people saw it and were like, oh, it's not bad. You know what I mean? And this is early stages of YouTube and all that kind of stuff. I said, I have a character that I would like to introduce into it, and I thought Richard would be a good fit. And I didn't know Richard, so I didn't know if it was hard to access him or not, or does he have an agent, does he not? Like, I don't know. I just see him on TV sometimes, see him at comedy clubs. His name floats around Vancouver. Yeah, I said, yeah, like let's meet up and talk. And Richard was looking for someone to shoot his one-man show, Never Be Done. And so we just met. First time he blew me off. Oh, classic really? Richard, yeah. Like he just blew me off thinking like, oh, like who's this character, you know what I mean? And then he actually then went and, he first said, he's like, yeah, I checked out your stuff. Yeah, let's meet tomorrow. And then he's like, then he actually did check out my stuff. And then he was like, oh, I see that you've done a lot of work. Yeah, let's actually meet for sure. So that he actually took the meeting with me. Yeah. And that's just who he was at that time. Like just a total disregard of other people, and it's all about Richard, you know. And
he mentioned that when you guys first met, he's like, I got my camera in the car. Can we just start right now? And he's like, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's how it went. Yeah.
So was it meant to be a documentary, or was it meant to be like lead up to a comedy show, or was it meant to?
Like you mean like what I was thinking?
What you both are thinking, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
So no, like I didn't have a plan at all. Richard, when I look back on it now, his side of it was like, oh, this may be someone that can help me, and I can help him because I'm Richard Lett, you know, as he would say. And so I was thinking the same thing. I was like, yeah, I want to kind of work with you anyways. And his one-man show sounded interesting, but it wasn't even about that. It was just that I thought he was interesting. Like the way he talked, and we related on a lot of levels, and just creatively. I was talking to him in the car yesterday when I drove him back to Vancouver. I said, you know, it's weird amongst, I think other artists can say, you know, when you're working with other filmmakers or actors or directors, whatever you are in the arts industry, there's just people that it feels right with. It clicks. You're like, oh yeah, it just works, you know? And that was that feeling. So yeah, it was initially, that's why I said my camera's in the car, like why don't I just start filming you now? Because when we were talking in that conversation, he was saying how in his one-man show, he would like to shoot behind the scenes footage of himself. And then that night we went to the comedy club at Yuck Yucks, and I'm showing up early with my bag, and I'm like sitting in there, and then I walk in the front door, and this guy, "Whoa, who are you? What's in the bag? And I'm like, oh, my camera. I'm here to film Richard. He's like, Richard didn't clear that with me. You're not allowed to film in here. You got to clear that with me first. And I got all like scared. I was like, oh, I was like, am I creating trouble? You know? Yeah. And he's like, he's the manager of Yuck X. Richard's the headliner that night. And he's like, just go sit over there. And I was like, okay. So I'm sitting there thinking like, oh man, did I just like ruin a part? Like, did I ruin something for Richard? Like, did I screw something up? Was I not supposed to say anything? Like, I don't know. And then Richard just comes waltzing in, like Richard at that time, leather jacket, his hat on, you know, and then it's just like, they immediately just start arguing, and I was like, what's going on right now? And then we get kicked out. Into? Yeah, and I was like, we got kicked out, and I was like, whoa, that's intense. And then I went outside, and I was like, all right, well, I guess we can't film your show. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. And I was like, well, let's just film something. Like, I got out of bed, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like the attitude of like, well, I'm here now. Yeah. So I was like, well, let's film something. So we did that poetry slam, which you see, and that's what starts the doc. It's at him doing that, you know, that entire poetry slam that I film and all that. And that's how it starts. And that's how it started. And then I just called them one day, said, do you mind if I start coming over to your house and just filming everything?
He seemed pretty comfortable with the camera being on him for the most part.
Yeah, you did.
A lot of people have a camera on them. They're kind of like, they won't be as open as he.
It was the opposite with him.
Yeah, exactly.
It really was, and like I've talked to Richard about this, and my perception is on it. And this isn't the nicest thing to say about someone, but when at that time in his life, he was so self-centered and selfish and ego-driven that the camera, when it was on, it was like, whoa, I'm Richard, I'm famous. Look, these guys are following me. I must be something. I must be great. And then when the camera would be off, it was like slightly toned down. And then when the camera would be on, it's like, you know, and that's when I was just like on this path of like, give me something real. Yeah. Like, cause you're full of shit and I know it, you know? And it's like, but it's fun. I was having fun with him. Yeah. We were having a blast, and like, you know, and I didn't fully understand like addiction or what it does to people, or, you know, so I'm just sitting there having fun as well. But I knew that he was like putting it on for me. And then, like I said, it's like I said in the Q&A, I said there's an underlining message there. There's Richard's truth that is the truth, that he's saying that stuff, that it's pissing people off. And then there's the truth that what we're as the audience seeing, that he's like full of shit. And then he lies to you the entire documentary. He never gives it to me. Yeah. Even when I say to him, do you blame this on anyone? He goes, the Jews, and he laughs, you know? Or like, my mom had a rough go of it or whatever. And then at the end, he finally gives it up, and I say like, what were you doing? And he just said, you know, I thought I was gonna die.
I had to be out by a certain day, and I wasn't packing because I thought I was gonna die, and that somebody else can deal with it. I was just doomed, so it didn't matter, right? Like, they could come there and they go, okay, well, you didn't do this, so we're gonna do this. We're going, well, I'm dead already, so what the fuck are you gonna do?
And that's the truth and I think that's the payoff for the audience, is that he finally tells you the truth.
Exactly.
You know, so that's why I was saying, like, filming him, like, yeah, he was comfortable. And then I think it got to a place where it got real, where like, he didn't even wasn't even concerning himself with us in the camera, because he was so out of his mind. And then I'm going, well, we got something here, so I'm going to really keep going and showing up. And then also, you know, I do believe that, you know, we turned into a life preserver for Richard, because I was saying to Graham like the other day, I said, I think if we were to shut those cameras off, like, Richard might have blown his brains out, because like we were the only ones around and filming, and it was like
the support system.
It became like that. The camera became the life preserver, where he's like, well, these guys are here, and you know, well, I guess I'll just hang on to that.
Yesterday, I said, asked him, do you think it was the cameras or the crew there that basically made you decide or got you into rehab?
Do you regret us filming all that?
You know, I don't regret you filming me then. It's strange because you remember it better than I do. You have, you know, documentation of it, so you can go, no, this is what happened, and here's the video of it. I have a disease that tells me that I don't have the disease. So it's nice to have this kind of, weapon against that disease. That's really what's going on here, is that you're keeping me safe by reminding me, there was a time when it didn't matter how many plays you wrote or how many jokes you told or how many videos or CDs or cassettes or photographs of a career piled in a fucking parking spot. Doesn't matter. It's what's going on in here, right?
Yeah, good question.
And he said, most definitely, like, I forget exactly what he said, but definitely, it was, like I said, life preserver. It made him realize he has to go and get help, kind of thing. And
Yeah, because I look at it from my perspective as like, if you're a guy, and you got these random young guys following you around and thought you were funny, but now you're in a very serious situation, and they filmed it all. It's like, do I kill myself? Mm-hmm. Do I go back to continue what I'm doing and look like a complete hypocrite, or do I do something different and get sober? And I think like the camera was also the pride preserver, but it was also that vice, like going, you are in a rock and a hard place, and just squeezed him to the bone, Exactly. And obviously everything else around him collapsing, right? Mm-hmm. No one was talking to him at that time. He had no friends.
Well, he burned every bridge.
Every bridge, burned it down.
Exactly.
Yeah, he burned it down again.
I didn't realize he was barred from some establishments, and
I got fired from Kelowna, pissed them all off in Edmonton, Darby's, and got kicked out of the Kingston. Oh, I got so drunk at the Gentries. I did one night there. I ended up almost fighting with the owner outside the place, and then I drove off hammered. Again, I built that room too. Built it, burned it down, and built it back up again. It's a piece of shit, that room.
It's crazy, but
well, yeah.
What was the stress like every day going there, and he was supposed to be moved out, and he's not even. Well, I shouldn't even be giving away stuff.
My colleagues.
It's okay. I mean, like it makes for a good interview. Maybe people see it, they can come back and get that perspective. Yeah. Absolutely, it's fine. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. What was the stress like in that environment? Like trying to like be calm and cool, but he's having a meltdown, and.
So, the environment was. It was awkward. It was high level. It's interesting for me because I feel that still is, and there was, especially at that time, something bigger than Richard and I running that whole thing. Because I always say, I was just the instrument, and I wasn't I wasn't the one playing the instrument. I was the instrument. It came through me. So, yeah, there was times where I could tell it's like, okay, I'm walking on eggshells and stuff like that. But I was also like, he's full of shit. Yeah. Like, and next I would say I was on that path of like, I just want some truth. Like, I want to see him say something. And like I said, that moment even where, he says, I'm an alcoholic. Fuck, like, it's real for him, but there's that slight, he's still putting it on. Mm-hmm. Just a hair if you watch that scene, and then again I say, well, do you blame it on anyone? The Jews. He just goes back to joking. I'm just like, he's not giving it to me. So for me, like, yeah, like it was bizarre. It was about as crazy as you could imagine. Mm-hmm. Is that I didn't know if he would freak out on me if one day we'd show up there. I know Graham was the DP was more of like, dude, like, is Richard gonna like do something crazy? Like, what if he fights us him? But the thing is, like, what kept us honestly the safest part of it when I would go over there and I could get away with what I was doing was because Richard, he was still hanging on to that. See, I can get something from Roy. Mm-hmm. Like, he's here filming me, so I don't want to piss him off too bad because then he might not show up tomorrow. So he was still hanging on to that because he's thinking like we're making a doc about something else. Like he's sitting there telling me what the doc is at one point. Like he's like, "Oh, this will be great for the doc when I get a comedians union together. That can be the story." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, for sure, buddy." Like it's like, no, that's not what. It's
almost like that. What's that series on? I forget what station it's at. It films. They pretend to do a doc and they get them into rehab and they get them the whole. Intervention.
Oh, like intervention. Yeah.
It was almost that kind of scenario where he thought this doc is what it's going to save my career. It's going to give me money to support
right, and
what I'm going to. Yeah,
absolutely. I think you're nailing it there, right? And like that's what I was saying. For me, that's why why he never went full out and never like threatened me or was ever rude to me. You know what I mean? Like through that process of the moving out, I'm talking about why he was never doing that, because he would just knew that it's like, I can be grumpy to a degree. So he was still keeping that in check because he's still trying to manage and control the situation. Like he even says in the doc, he's like, you know, the reality is, Roy, like, you know, I'm not going to be homeless. I'm just not going to be homeless. What's going on is I'm just getting cooler is what's going on. It's just like, oh my God, dude. Like that's what I'm saying. So it's like, he just was in denial. And then you do see it when he does go homeless. He finally does get snippy with me on the phone. Like he says, Roy, there comes a time when you just take whatever information you get and you stop asking questions. You get firm with me. That was the only time he got firm with me. And there's that time on the phone. Yeah. And then when we cut to the underground scene and then Graham asked that question, I wasn't there.
Really? So
that's why it's like, again, there was something else happening because I was trying my hardest to get there, but I was, you know, like I was working a second job. I was working a day job too, right? So I'm trying to get there after work and Graham's covering for me and just there by himself. And Graham asked that question, like, Richard, what are you going to do with all your stuff? And then he just attacks Graham, like not physically, but verbally just jumps all over him. And that we only got that because I wasn't there. If I was there, I believe that we wouldn't have gotten that reaction because he, like I said, he was still hanging on to like, I don't want to piss off Roy too much because then he might just bail on this project because I'm so crazy.
Richard, what are you gonna? How are you planning on getting everything out of here? Like,
I don't know. Do you have any ideas?
Well, you can't fit everything in your car.
Right. So, well, you've pointed out all the negative things. Do you have anything to offer? Do you?
Well, I was gonna.
Then, if you don't, then just keep filming, because if you're not going to be helpful. And I'm not even close to getting here, Graham.
I know.
One of the things that I ran away from was you guys. Okay?
Yeah.
Because you guys were making me fucking nuts with all your questions. So give me a moment to try and sort it out, all right?
Yeah. I'm just offering my
criticism.
No, I'm
judgment.
not giving any criticism or judgment.
All right.
Okay, it's all cool. We'll figure this out.
I've worked very hard to make it possible for you to rent this. I volunteered to leave. You know as well as I did that I could have fought tooth and nail to not leave. I volunteered to leave on the basis that I would get some of that deposit back, and you're just backing out on that.
No. The deal was, if you recall, was you also remember you didn't pay any rent for the whole month.
I was.
That was the deal.
All right. Well, I certainly wouldn't.
And after that, the deal we made was you said that you'd be out by the 15th, and if you were out by the 15th, and there was no damage to the suite, then you would get your deposit back, which didn't happen.
That's why I say there was something like a little bit bigger going on there to kind of, it kept everyone safe. But yes, it was definitely real and heavy when I would go over there and he wasn't moving out, and I would just be like, hey, so what's going on? Like, you leaving? Like in the scene, he's like, so you're gonna be out by 3 o'clock? Oh, for sure. And I go, for sure, 3 o'clock? No. I would say 4 o'clock. It's like,
next week.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what it's like dealing with people in addiction and addicts, right? Like they firmly believe that it's like, oh, I'll be out of here by 4 instead. Yeah. And that's what it's like. And that's why it was important for me to let the audience sit in that grueling process of watching him move out and try and move out.
It almost felt like to me, I almost felt like I was there in that
yes,
environment.
Yeah, thank you. That's a compliment.
In the apartment, and I just had flashbacks of not myself, but like in situations or people I've seen, and
no, thank you for that. I take that as a compliment because I was exactly the design and the goal for that is, and that's what I wanted. When I watch a documentary, that's what I want. And then when I was creating this, that's exactly what I wanted it to feel like. Is like when you're going through that process, it's like you're there and you just want to jump through the lens and say like, get your shit out of here, man. Like, go get a moving truck. Go do, like, you know. And it's just like, but if you ever have struggled, met someone or dealt with someone who's struggling with addiction, that's exactly how they operate. They're like, oh, can I borrow $20? I'll give it back to you tomorrow. I promise. You know. Mm-hmm. And that's just like it's like the classic saying with addicts, right? Like they'll steal your wallet and then help you look for it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, that's what was going on, right? So,
well,
yeah.
How long did it take you to from start to finish?
9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
Wow,
years.
so it's a labor of love right there.
Yeah.
How you got the testimonials from people? Was that like during or was that after? Like how did you arrange all that?
Oh, all the interviews with all the other comics and family members and stuff like that. I just would call them up, and someone would know someone that knew someone, and
Was that shot like during, or that like current, like that was recently, that kind of stuff? They're looking back, basically.
Yeah, just like it spread out. Like I kind of got them where I could. I would just go to comedy clubs, and like I said, like just from my own experience of doing stand-up when I was 18, you quickly figure out kind of the structure in the comedy world, and especially in such a small community like Vancouver, you see the same people, you know who is who. So knowing who Richard is, I immediately know Patrick Malia or Byron Bertram or whatever. Like you just know those guys are going to be around, and that they've obviously probably interacted with Richard at some point on some level. Exactly. So I would just go to the comedy clubs, and I'd see, for Patrick Malia, I went to the comedy club and saw him, and then I just saw him backstage, and I just said, hey man, like, do you mind if I interview you? I'm doing a doc. It was actually really, I've actually never talked about this. It was difficult. There was times where people, I was actually telling people that I wasn't doing a documentary on Richard Lett because they wouldn't do the interview. Wow. So I would say, hey, I'm doing a documentary on comedians in Canada. And they'd be like, oh, is this the Richard Lett one? And I'd be like, oh no, well he's interviewed, but I'm interviewing other people too. And they're like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, sure. So I would always lead in with questions about their career and who they were first to loosen them up. And then I'd be like, oh, so what's your relationship with Richard? Oh, he's a fucking asshole. You know what I mean? It's just like, it was great, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I had, that was like really the extent of my trickery, I guess, with trying to get truth out of people or honesty out of people, right?
You gotta do, right?
That's and I interviewed his mom, but she's not in it. And it was important to, with Brianna, like you said, that whole koi scene is, to me, it's astounding, like how she comes out of it, like her perspective on it at the end. Exactly. But that was it. I just went around and just did interviews with people. Jeff Lauren was really cool interview because he's the one who put Richard up for the Picton piece, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. It was, did you have any, looking, when you were editing it all and adding the B-roll, did you think, well, should I do this? Should I not do this? Or?
No, as soon as I saw it, I was like, this has to be it.
Yeah.
100%. I still stand by that.
Oh, 100%. Too. Yeah. My point of view on the thing was, even him doing that song, it was more of a awareness. It was like a political statement, or he wasn't making fun of the women. He was making fun of the police and the government and
the media.
And the media and all that stuff. And it was funny, blah, blah, blah. But it made you feel uncomfortable, but that's what it should do.
Well, so were you there for the woman who asked the question?
Yes.
Okay, so
beside me.
Yeah, it got very awkward in there, right? Mm-hmm. So when she asked that question, she actually was, I think more what she was saying was she was actually demanding Richard to apologize because she goes, you're on native land now, you need to apologize. That's essentially what she came out and finally said in that Q&A, and I was just like, oh, geez, telling someone what they should do, what's going on here, But anyways, we were talking about this after, and even Chelsea, we were talking about this, and we were saying, she was saying that people are just going to laugh at the bit, and I was going, no one's laughing in the theater. Yeah. The audience the tape of the audience were laughing, but the people actually watching the doc weren't. Even my friend behind me, who I thought would be someone, he went, as soon as it came, he went, Jesus.
He apologized, I pretty believe. But
yeah, he did. And then she says to me, he just gave a typical white male apology. And I was like, okay. Oh, that's heavy, that's what everyone's kind of says now, that said, hating on, a privileged white male, And I was like, okay. And then she's like, all that's going to happen is that all these white young males like yourself are just going to sit around and laugh at that when it's not meant to be laughed about. And I said, I'm not laughing about it. Mm-hmm. It's a very appalling thing that happened, that those women died. Mm-hmm. It's awful. I feel terrible for the family and the victims of that, clearly. And I said, I said, it's an opportunity to discuss now. If you're hurt and now maybe this has been triggered and you can heal now. Mm-hmm. Just because you're angry doesn't mean that you can't heal. Anger is actually a great place to be if you're looking to heal from any type of pain in your life. So yes, if you're angry, now be angry. And I go, this is providing. And she goes, yeah. So yeah, she goes, yeah. I guess everyone gets their opinion of it, right? I said, exactly. And she goes, well, I would just leave a review, an awful review on this if I saw it in there. And I said, and you have that right to, and that is very important because we need that too in this world. And then she was like, yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's good that he got recovered, but that if you want to get this thing anywhere, you got to take it out. And I was like, okay. You know, and I just was like polite, and I walked away. But I get it. I get where she's angry about. I'm not
Maybe
sitting
she's
there.
been abused in the past or something.
And she said she knew some of the women.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I get it. That it's awful. And Richard's way he performs it, yes, he's trying to do a political spin on it. And now he's looking at it going, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that, or I could have done it better, whatever his thoughts are, I don't know. My point is that it's important that it can be discussed is what's going on. He did say this. He is making a point. Yes, he's not happy about it, all that kind of stuff. If it's offending you, like, okay, like, but this is the truth. Like, let's open up communication. Because to me, I'm going like, yeah, put that in there. Like, if it can open up conversation, like, let's open up conversation around whatever. Open up conversation around addiction. Because if you're going to say that Robert Pickton didn't suffer from some sort of mental illness,
Exactly.
then what do you think, he was God then? Yeah. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, if it takes the Robert Pickton thing to trigger that, to open up to the fact that mental illness is everywhere and that there is sociopaths in the world and that we need to address this as a society, then great. I hope that the documentary does hit that deep on people. I don't think it will, but that's my whole point is that yes, the world can be ugly. It can be an awful and terrible place. And you know what I mean? And that my movie is just the documentary. I'm saying I'm just putting addiction on the level, and addiction is just one of many things that people suffer from in this world. You know, so it's like, then what, were you just going to shut the door on it because someone's feelings got hurt?
Yeah, exactly.
No, like, this needs to be talked about. There's 100,000 people a year dying from addiction. You know, and giving more money to the government maybe not is the solution. AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, was started by two drunk dudes.
Exactly.
You know, like, free. You know, so that's what I'm saying. It's not always money is the solution. No. You know what it is? It's communication. The relief of Alcoholics Anonymous says the foundation came from one alcoholic talking to another. That's where they found their relief.
It's fellowship.
Fellowship. Yeah. It's two men talking, or that's how it started with the AA thing. It's two men talking and found that there was relief there. So no, shutting down communication is not the answer. Communicating is the answer.
Looking back, is there anything you would have done differently or changed, or anything you would have, any advice to yourself back
I was shot more.
9 years ago? Sorry?
I would have shot more. Yeah, I definitely know if there's anything I wouldn't have not done different. I like I said, I wish I would have shot more and maybe had more on board, maybe spiritually and intellectually, and educated more on addiction, so I could have maybe honed in on a little bit more on questions or whatever it looks like, because I get exposed too in it, right, of where I'm at as a man and who I am as a being. Like, I don't know everything, and I'm still learning and creating and going through my own experience in this world. And you know, I'm very immature at the beginning of the documentary as well. So, you know, that's why I say, if I was older Roy now looking back, I'd probably have more different questions or different things to trigger, or maybe gotten different footage and seen where that goes. But I also believe that that's kind of the beauty of this documentary, is that it's not that, and it's very independent because I financed it all myself.
I was going to ask you that, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I financed this myself. You know, every paycheck went into it. You know, so you know, it's like when you watch it, it's super easy to judge it. Just, oh, it's crappy. Look at the quality. You know, and the quality does improve because I grow as a filmmaker through it as well, and I financially can afford better cameras and stuff like that. As you guys know, as being in the industry yourself, you know, it helps. But yeah, the production value is you know, I wish that obviously I had money to do better production value. Like, some of my shots now, the interviews are just like flat, and I'm just like, you can move a camera, you know what I mean? Like, put it on a slider, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know that stuff though at the time. But yeah, so it's like little things like that. But that's the growing process, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, to be honest with you, I wouldn't change a lick of it. Yeah.
Any advice for like the show's kind of based around like mentorship and just giving advice to other people that want to do what you're doing or want to be
Okay, yeah.
Any advice for anybody like that, like in this day and age right now that wants to shoot a documentary?
Yeah, I'm totally an advocate of shooting. Don't worry about it. I didn't set out to make a documentary. You know, that's not.
You're like an original vlogger. You're
like
vlog, basically.
yeah, like that.
Before
yeah.
that was even big.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like it's not my deal. You know what I mean? Like I was doing a scripted comedy web series and then met Richard. So anyone, young, old, whatever it is, if you want to jump into the pot with the rest of us and create and put your creations out to the world, do it now. Don't wait till tomorrow. Do it right now. Take out your phone and start Snapchatting or Instagramming and having fun. And you learn. I've learned so much about myself in that process and experimenting with characters or experimenting with ideas and people, you know, and just do it. Don't worry about what you're making. You know how many projects get ruined because him and their friends or people just can't get past writing the script or what scene they should write next. And it's just like the best script in the world right now is either sitting in someone's head or it's sitting on someone's shelf.
Thanks everyone for watching. All the links and stuff will be down in the description below. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
And coming, like I said, right off the slopes.
Yeah.
And the patience and
yeah,
good luck with this documentary. It needs to be seen, I think. So.
And I appreciate you guys like taking the time and doing the interview. Like anything I can do to help get it out, I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, we'll see you next time.